welcome to the Self-Learning Platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 8, UN System, Peacekeeping, Peacemaking and Adjudication. And we are continuing our topic, Peacekeeping, Peacemaking and Peace Building in Practice. And first one is East Timor. Until 1975, East Timor was a Portuguese colony, and it was forcibly occupied by Indonesia. Following long drawn out negotiations, both Portugal and Indonesia agreed to ask the UN Secretary General to conduct a popular consultation to find out whether the people wanted autonomy within Indonesia or independence. A plebiscite was held. The result of the direct ballot was rejection of the autonomy within Indonesia. Following the announcement of the result, there was intense campaign of violence by the military forces opposed to the independence. Many were uprooted from their homes. The Security Council acted under Chapter 7 of the Charter to establish a multinational force of about 11,000 troops and civilians under Australian command. This UN mission of support in East Timor, or UNIMISET, was empowered to use all necessary means to restore order and facilitate humanitarian assistance. At the same time as the civilian and judicial administration had collapsed, the UN Security Council established the UN Transitional Administration for East Timor to administer the territory. Its mandate included building capacity for self-government. The UNTAET was to act under a special representative of the UN, who was empowered to enact new laws and regulations, and to suspend, amend, or abolish the existing laws. The UNTAET mission ended with the independence of East Timor in May 2002. The UNIMISET, however, continued its peacekeeping task even after East Timor's independence. Thus, the UN handled both peacekeeping and peace-building tasks here. Next is Cambodia. In 1980, the UN General Assembly passed a resolution on Cambodia, calling for an international conference on Kampuchea and laying down the principles to form the basis of discussion at the conference. Negotiation with Vietnam for an agreement for withdrawal of Vietnamese forces, observance of human rights, free elections, and non-interference by outsiders. The Security Council in 1990 authorized a massive peacekeeping operation. The UN Transition Authority in Cambodia oversaw the elections. The Khmer Rouge and Intrasine Party in the civil conflict accused UNITAC of not being neutral and not ensuring the withdrawal of all Vietnamese forces, and did not give up its arms. The Security Council adopted a resolution asking the Secretary General to study the implications of Khmer Rouge not complying with the conditions for free elections. The council decided that elections should be held in all areas not under the Khmer Rouge control. Only one-fourth of the Khmer Rouge forces were in cantonment sites for disarming. Despite these conditions, elections were held. The presence of a significantly large group of Khmer Rouge forces prevented real peace emerging in the country. Next is Namibia. Southwest Africa, later came to be called Namibia, was placed under mandate rule of South Africa by the League of Nations. The UN Charter brought all the mandate territories under its trusteeship system. But South Africa refused to accept the Charter obligations. In 1966, the UN General Assembly terminated the mandate of South Africa. The South West African People Organization SWAPO formed to fight against the continued rule by South Africa. In 1969, the Security Council declared that continued occupation of Southwest Africa by South Africa was illegal and accepted a plan proposed by Secretary General for elections under international supervision, paving the way for independence. The plan could not be implemented as South Africa did not cooperate. In 1988, an accord was reached outside the UN, which linked South Africa withdrawal from Southwest Africa with Cuban withdrawal from Angola. The Security Council decided to establish the UN Angola Verification Mission to supervise the withdrawal of Cuban forces. The UN operations in Southwest Africa consisted of peacekeeping between South African forces and the forces of SWAPO, supervising the ceasefire, demobilizing illegal forces, and holding free and fair elections. The UN operation took a long time and was possible only because of an agreement reached outside the UN. The UN carried out its operations on a consensual basis. Next is Angola. In Angola, the National Union for Total Independence of Angola (UNITA) fought for freedom from Portuguese rule. Another faction was also in the field with the same objective. The Popular Front for Liberation of Angola. Cuban forces assisted UNITA. The 1988 peace plan, mentioned above in connection with Namibia, linked with withdrawal of South African forces from Southwest Africa with the withdrawal of Cuban forces from Angola. The Security Council emplaced the UN Angola Verification Mission to verify the withdrawal of Cuban forces and to conduct free elections. The elections were held in 1992 and a majority was secured by the PFPLA. The UNITA charged the UNAVEM2, which supervised the election, that it did not conduct the elections in a free and fair manner and repudiated the result. It restored to arms and captured many municipalities. In 1995, Security Council established a larger mission, UNAVEM-3, on a peacekeeping mission to use good offices to reconcile the factions, to monitor the extension of administration throughout the state, to effect ceasefire and disengagement of fighting forces, to help demobilization and disarmament of UNITA, to effect the return of government forces to barracks, to supervise the Angolan police force, and to supervise the presidential election. The mission was successfully achieved. Now we want to wind up this lecture and thank you so much for your attention.